Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Sustainable Packaging Summit. I'm Tim Sykes from Packaging Europe. Today we're going to be talking about how to build a circular economy for packaged goods. We've got four fantastic speakers who themselves are at the forefront of this endeavor, but who are pursuing quite contrasting approaches to what circularity really means. We have two global brand owners, Gian de Belder from Procter & Gamble, Chris Daly from PepsiCo. We have Dana Mosora, who represents the C-Flex Consortium. And all the way from New York, we have Tom Saki from TerraCycle. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Gian de Belder, who is Principal Scientist for Packaging R&D at P&G.
Okay, good afternoon. So thanks, Tim, for the introduction. Indeed, I'm going to talk about packaging sustainability, and I'm going to focus on our Ambition 2030 and the need for cross-value chain collaborations, and I will explain it by means of a couple of case studies. So first of all, our Ambition 2030 is basically a renewed sustainability strategy that we put in place already back in 2010. At that time, the focus on packaging was really to focus on lightweighting, doubling the amount of PCR. By 2020, we're going to use 52,000 tons of PCR, which is not a small amount, I would say, and also focusing on recycled packaging. Now, those commitments have been renewed, and we call it now Ambition 2030. You can read all these items. And we believe we can make a difference through our global reach, the fact that we believe we are touching 5 billion of consumers, and also our innovation capabilities, right? And you will see throughout the presentation a couple of examples what we're focusing on. What does this mean for packaging, right? So these are kind of, in a quick summary, the packaging goals. So all of our packaging either recyclable or reusable. Working on solutions so no packaging finds its way to the ocean. I think that's also an important one. And then also focusing on completely new recycling technologies, right? So today I'm going to focus a little bit on Project Holy Grail, which is innovation in sorting, but also we'll talk about a new process to recycle polypropylene. What we also have been lately announcing a couple of months ago was this one. So reduce our use of virgin petroleum plastics by 50%, right? So that's worth 300 kilotons of virgin plastic material replacement, okay? So that's a little bit in a nutshell what the corporate goals are. For each of the business units, we also have goals, right? So again, a lot of commitments are happening here in Europe. These are a couple of them for fabric care. So you can see we're focusing on less but better plastics, right? So specifically for fabric care, there is a commitment to have 30% plastic packaging reduction by 2025. So it's again worth 15,000 tons. And also one of the examples here, you can see that we are moving out of these Ariel pots, which are pretty heavyweight, colored PET. We're moving them to bags as well, okay? I'm just going to skip one. Through this project, we estimate if we would line up all of these containers next to each other, you can make a bridge between Ireland and Canada, right? So that's really the amount of plastics we are talking about. So it's a huge amount. And again, we are moving them into recyclable pouches. Good, so going back, as I said, that's really focusing on less plastics. Then we also have better plastics. So we're gonna have commitments on fabric care specific to have fully recyclable packaging by 2022. And also load more of recycled resins into our packs, right? So today, you see on these bottles, Lenor, currently it's up to 50%. We're moving those ones to up to 100%. And then for the Ariel brand, we're moving from the current 25 up to 50% PCR as well, right? So you can see there's quite a lot of things happening, specifically on fabric care. Next to then also reusable, right? And obviously Tom will talk about Loop. I'm not going to talk it today. So, focusing on the goal of 100% recyclable and reusable. This is just a very quick chart. The first part of my presentation is going to be focused on single-use plastics and to focus on recycle them. Second part is going to be on multiple uses. So let's focus on the first one, right? So for me, these are the 5 pillars that needs to be in place to talk about true circular economies, right? So first of all, we need to design for recycling. I will talk about the Lenor example later on. Then secondly, people need to have access to collection, right? So that's kind of under control in Europe and in North America, obviously not in countries like in Southeast Asia. Then the consumers need to participate, right? So that's also a very important item. And then obviously the sorting needs to be improved, and that's basically where we would like to innovate as well. And that's Project Holy Grail, which I will talk in a minute. If you have all of those 4 pillars in place, then we have access to high quality, high quantity of recyclate, for which we need to find end markets. And that's again where our goal of putting much more PCR in the packaging is a very important one, right? So if there's no end markets, you can forget about circular economies, right? So these are the important items, and all of these things need to be in place in order to talk about circular economies for plastics. The current low recycling rates are mainly, I would say, attributed by a lack of good collection, and a lot of collection is needed, and that's currently missing, both in Europe and North America. The most collected item is a standard PET bottle. And the numbers in Europe, it's 58%. It's good, but it's relatively low, so that needs to increase. So we need to work on collection and consumer participation, but then also we need to innovate in the field of sorting. Good. So as said, cross-value chain collaborations are very important. And I will take you through a couple of cases following these 5 pillars. So I'm going to start with product innovation, the introduction of PCR. Again, I'm just going to speed it up. I'm just going to showcase you the latest what we're doing. So these bottles, Viacal, contain already 50%. And we also have plans to ramp that up to an average of 70% in the bottle on all of the Viacal here in Europe. Another example is Fairy. Also there, we are doubling the amount of PCR. So we're moving from the current 2 kilotons to 5 kilotons in the transparent bottles. So that brings our average level up to 65%. And obviously we're also playing in the field of 100% recycled content. The bottle you see here is an example, the Fairy Ocean. But we have more, right? So these are all the items that are being launched in 100% PCR containing bottles, with a clear message also to consumers to help recycle those bottles as well. Okay? So those were just a couple of examples. We have obviously many more, but I don't have the time to go through all of them. So next in this presentation will be a couple of items on the different pillars, right? So design for recycling is something that I already mentioned. The Lenor bottles, we used to have them in all kinds of colored PET. Colored PET gives challenges for recycling. We removed the colorant, we replaced it by full body shrink sleeves. If you would stop there, again, you still have a sorting challenge. So what we've done is we now have a full perforation across the line, and we're asking the consumers to remove the sleeve before they recycle or put it in the recycling bin. So we're ending up with a naked PET bottle, which is perfect for recycling, right? So this is just one. And also for this one, we got conditional approval from the European PET bottle platform. These are the conditions. And we're working as an industry, so we're working heavily with our competitors to come up and find solutions for all of these conditions, right? So one of the items we need to work on is a uniform icon, uniform removal text across all the different brands, across all the different competitors working on this one, right? So if you go shopping and you go, for example, look for fabric enhancers, these days you see a lot of sleeved bottles in there. Another very important cross-value collaboration is this one. So this is Recyclaws from Plastic Recyclers Europe. What we try to do here is to harmonize guidelines, protocols, in order to create a kind of a level playing field within Europe, right? There are so many guidelines out there by country, by green dot organizations, by retailers, you name it, that it's impossible to find a common ground. And these guidelines are there really to develop scientific-based, European-wide acceptable guidelines, right? So it's again very important to work in these type of groups. And I was also happy to be the first fast-moving consumer goods joining this platform. But again, currently we are 25 members. We are looking for much more because we think this is very critical. So collection, again, I think all of you know about the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. It's actually our CEO, which is the chairman of this one. It's about getting money to improve the infrastructure, specifically in Asia, where there is no infrastructure at all, right? So the money will be used for infrastructure, innovation, education of people and governments, and also very active cleanup programs. As said, our CEO is actually the chairman, but there are many more partners, and almost every week you have new members. So this is the latest one we have, and you see it's really a cross-value chain collaboration as well. Consumer education, that's also a very tricky one because every single country has other rules. So how can I communicate to a consumer in a very effective way? The question is, do I need to put it on the pack, or can I just use my mobile phone to inform them on how to properly do this and give them better options, right? So again, I'm not going to talk too much about this one. This one is obviously one of my key projects, innovate in the field of separation technologies, right? So this is what I would like to talk next. It's like, how can I make the packaging intelligent and start communicating with, for example, automatic sorting devices in sorting centers or at recyclers. Okay, so that's really the objective. This is a project that I pitched and I have been leading within the New Plastics Economy from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. It's now finished, but you can see this is really an effort to have a full value chain approach, where you see on top all of the brand owners, including our competitors, because we obviously would like our competitors to join us in these type of journeys. You see a retailer, you see waste manufacturers, you see converters like Verstraeten and others, you see resin producers, and you also see technology providers, such as Digimarc, which is also present over here. Okay? And the objective was really to have a look like, should the industry align on tracers, which is basically fluorescent particles you would add to a package in order then to sort it out better, or should we go for a more innovative approach, and that's what digital watermarks is all about. So basically a digital watermark is what you see here on the screen, and I just will showcase it quickly as well. It's basically hidden codes in artwork. That's the essence of a digital watermark. The only thing, so these are now packs which are foreseen of watermarks. You don't see any difference, right? So it's, for us, it's just normal as a normal artwork, but for my iPhone, I easily can capture codes, right? So a very cheap camera, as the one on my iPhone, is able to detect, right? So my iPhone sees it, this package really as a multitude of barcodes. That's basically the principle, okay? Now, it's there not only for recycling, but you also can do quite a lot of other things with the intelligence, right? So it provides you value throughout the full value chain, what they call from birth to rebirth, right? So when we compose the package, you could think about quality systems on your packing lines that are, by means of inspection of a camera, you can have a look to the cap, if it's basically kept on the right bottle with the right label and all of these type of things. Also for a consumer, as I just showed you, there's the ability to do consumer engagement campaigns and other items, but also for the retailers, it allows them to do fast checkouts, right? Because there's no barcodes anymore, right? So I can just randomly scan it, right? And what we are doing within Holy Grail is really to focus on circular economy. So how can I use this intelligence as well to improve the sorting of automatic sorting lines, okay? So I just need one technology and I create value across the full value chain. Okay? So now my package became intelligent. So what do I need to do next on a sorting line is actually I need to have an add-on module made out of different high-speed cameras and trying to identify these type of what I call hidden barcodes. Okay? So that's what we've done and what we also have been demonstrating during an open house back in May. With obviously great support from the associations that you can see here, so CFlex, PCEP, Petcor, and many others. And we have been running several samples, right? Our own samples, but also samples from other brand owners. This is an IML sample from Verstraeten. But we also have put it in the molds, right? So rather than putting it only in the artwork, I also can put it in molds. So every time I produce a PET bottle, it contains the watermark as well, okay? So those are the trials we have been doing, and this is just a very quick demonstration how it looks like. So high powerful LED, a camera system, and this machine which is the add-on module, is basically connected with an existing sorting line, right? So we don't need to have any additional sorting machines. It's just close coupled to an existing one in order also to minimize the capital investment that waste manufacturers need to do. Okay? So what's next? Next, the project within New Plastics Economy is finished basically. We have been publishing our reports, again, thanks to the help also of Packaging Europe, in their magazine. So if you go to this site, you can see quite a lot of information there. And we're now also organizing a second open house. So if people would have an interest, I have some leaflets out there, so just see me after the presentation. But we are really now want to showcase it to all of the people that the technology actually works. Okay? Next to that one, we want to form a bigger association, more brand owners, more retailers, and so forth. And currently, I'm acting as a kind of an interim project leader. And I've already recruited 20 brand owners, which confirmed their interest to participate. Next to, and that's also important, more than 10 retailers, right? So it's typically not that easy to attract retailers in these type of projects, but so far we already have more than 10. In total, we have more than 50 different brand owners, retailers, technology providers, you name it, already confirmed, right? So it's going into the right direction, but we need to have a kind of an association that's going to lead it and prepare ourselves for a market entry. So from a technical point of view, we need to upscale the machine, right? So we move from a 1.5 meter wide conveyor now to a 3 meters, so it means a little bit more cameras, but that's not really rocket science, I would say. But the big thing is first forming the association. Then what we would like to do next, once we have that machine available, we would like to run a test market somewhere in Europe, right? So with multiple brand owners, retailers, for seeing the digital watermarks in the pack, and learn from a waste manufacturer somewhere in a country in Europe, okay? So you see, I mean, we're doing quite a lot of these type of presentations, but I think the important one is going to be the K-Show, as said, and the open house. So if people have an interest, please see me after the presentations. Other collaborations, obviously, again, a very nice cross-value chain collaboration. I've established a working group within PETCOR. PETCOR is a full PET value chain. I've established there one called ODR, opaque and difficult to recycle PET packages. And also in that one, we already have more than 60 different participants, and you can find more information also on that website. Important there is also to have a look into plastic aerosols, which is obviously the next big thing in PET. But we want to make sure that whenever we're going to enter with huge amounts of plastic aerosols, that they will be recyclable as well, together with PET. Right? So at the Plastic Recycling Show in Amsterdam, we have been announcing that we have the first polymeric-based aerosol container. Right? So there are no metal parts, it's only polymers in there, which are compatible with the PET recycling stream. Okay? So again, those were a couple of items fully focusing on single-use plastics and recyclable. Next is multiple use. Again, we are a founding partner of Loop. Tom will talk a little bit more about Loop and explain by means of better pictures than these ones, right? So I'm just going to skip and leave it up to Tom. But we're also doing other things outside of Loop. So this is an example, a pilot test in the US and the UK for ULE, where basically this part is a kind of replaced, and the bottom part is actually a reusable part. Okay? So we're piloting these type of reuse systems, I would say, across the globe as well. A last thing, PureCycle. I think everyone has seen certain things. So again, we were in the need to have access to very high quality recycled polypropylene. And I must say it's very difficult to find, right? So if you go and look, most of the mechanically recycled polypropylene is either grayish, most of the time even dark. And we have been working on a new process. It's a kind of a dissolution recycling to eliminate contaminants, including colorants. Okay? So it's basically looking into these type of things. So it's kind of a dissolution process, first with an extraction and filtration, with the aim to go to these type of high quality recycled polypropylene grades. Okay? The good thing is we have been developing it. We have been out-licensing it to a company called PureCycle Technologies, and they are now running it in a feedstock evaluation unit, and later on by 2021 they also will have the first plant operational in the US. Since then, we had many collaborations with Milliken, Nestlé, L'Oréal, and Aptar Group, really to test and to implement it also in their products. Okay? So again, I think a very nice example of cross-value chain collaborations, and here is what we call the feedstock evaluation unit, right? So it's a pilot scale reactor, but well, according to US norms, it's rather big, I would call it, but so this one is able to run 5 to 10 kilograms per hour. The industrial unit will be able to run 50 kilotons on this one, okay? A last one, a glimpse into the future, so no liquid, no plastic. We're also doing a lot of trials with waterless products, right? If it's waterless, there's no need actually to put in a plastic. So we're also looking into these alternatives, as you can see here. So we call it the swatches, which is then typically packed into kind of carton-based packs. But again, these are all developments we're running, and it's really in test markets in the US as we speak, and we're trying to learn from all of these items. So with that, I would like to close, and I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.